Vayiggash, just another Bible story in Genesis about a dysfunctional Jewish family. We have 4 competitive, wealthy Jewish mothers, sister wives, living in the same house. We have a rich Jewish father who is the preoccupied CEO of his new company, B'nai Yisrael Incorporated, who plays favorites with his kids. We have 12 competitive Jewish princes tooling around Canaan in their Porsches and Tesla Cybertrucks, who think that their you-know-what doesn't stink, and very stressed because their 4 Jewish mothers keep telling them that if they're not pre-med or pre-law, they'll be failures, that they may even have to go into their father's successful ranching and real estate business. And they have to constantly listen to how wonderful their younger brother Joseph is. And then there's Joseph, son of the favorite wife, who can do no wrong. Also, a little weird because he keeps telling everyone what their dreams mean. So he's constantly bullied and beat up by his brothers and eventually gets sold to a band of traveling gypsies going to Egypt. Is there any hope for these kids? Do they even stand a chance? Does this family even stand a chance? We shall see. Let's see where this all leads us. Now back to Vayiggash. It is generally accepted that if we really study and understand history, we have the potential to influence our future. We have to know what was in order to understand what is. In Vayiggash, we find just the opposite. Pumfaker, the opposite. We are able to use what we know in the present, that was once the future, to influence us and let us reinterpret the past. In Vayiggash, Joseph does something unusual. He reveals himself to his brothers, fully aware that they will suffer shock and then guilt as they remember how it was that their brother Joseph is in Egypt. He reinterprets the past. I quote from Genesis chapter 45, verse 4 through 8. I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt, and now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now, there has been a famine in the land, and for the next 5 years, there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me advisor to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler of all Egypt. This is markedly different from the way Joseph described these events when he spoke to the chief butler in prison. I quote Genesis chapter 40, verse 15. I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing to deserve being put in a dungeon. In that quote, it was a story of kidnap and injustice. Now it has become a story of divine providence and redemption. It wasn't you, he tells his brothers, it was God. You didn't realize that you were part of a larger plan, and though it began badly, it has ended well. So don't hold yourselves guilty, and do not be afraid of any desire for revenge on my part. There is no such desire. I realize that we were all being directed by a force greater than ourselves, greater than we can fully understand. Joseph does the same in the next Parsha, Parsha Vayechi, when the brothers fear that he may take revenge after their father's death. I quote Genesis chapter 50, verses 19 and 20. Don't be afraid. Am I in place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done for saving of many lives. Joseph is helping his brothers to revise their memory of the past. In doing so, he is challenging one of our most fundamental assumptions about time, that we can change the future, but we cannot change the past. But is that entirely true? What Joseph is doing for his brothers is what he has clearly done for himself. Events have changed his and their understanding of the past. We cannot fully understand what is happening to us now until we can look back in retrospect and see how it all turned out. This means that we are not held captive by the past. Things that happen to us, not as dramatically as to Joseph perhaps, can completely alter the way we look back and remember. Essentially, what we see here is by action in the future, we can redeem the past. If we cannot change the past, then it is always there, holding us back like a ball and chain around our legs. We cannot change the past, but we can reinterpret it by integrating it into a new narrative. That is what Joseph was doing to help him survive a personal life of unparalleled ups and downs. He now uses it to help his brothers live without overpowering guilt. There has hardly been a generation in all of Jewish history when Jews did not reinterpret their texts in light of the present experience. The prophets, then the Midrash, then the great biblical commentators and philosophers, all reinterpreted biblical narrative for their day. There has hardly been a generation in all of Jewish history when Jews did not reinterpret their texts in light of the present tense experience. So, there was definitely hope for that family, our Jewish family. Am Yisrael Chai. I would like to thank my Rebbe, the Alter Rav, Rabbi Stecker, the Younger Rav, out there, my Admor, Rabbi Schweber, and my Chazan, soon to be my Rabbi Chazan, Chazan Shamash, for always being there for my spiritual guidance. I also want to thank Jamie Cohen, who makes everything in Temple Israel run more smoothly, especially our record-breaking Kol Nidre campaign that is approaching $1 million this year. On Zoom, thank you, Jamie. Last but not least, my Wedla, for always and amazingly putting up with all of my crazy narishkeit, and for helping me find a new narrative in the present. Thank you, everyone.